Chainsaw Massacre reboot, which I just went and saw. They screwed this up. They did. They they had the potential not to screw it up, but they didn't. They screwed it up. I mean, okay, sure. I'll start at the beginning, and then hopefully you'll see what I think is wrong with this. Uh, so this is actually not a pure reboot. It is actually technically a sequel to the original, which only makes this more. That actually makes me angrier than if it was a reboot. I could handle this if it was just a reboot. But it's not. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. It's great. It's an amazing horror film. It's coming from a horror fan. I like all horror films, even the bad ones. Not this one. Go see the original first. Yeah, just actually don't see this new one. Just look at the original. Because the original is probably one of the only intelligent slasher films. I mean, arguably, the originals of all the big name slashers were much better than their sequels by every right. But, I don't know. The original Texas Chainsaw, it's better than, well, you could make a case for Friday the 13th. And, well, Halloween. Okay, look. It's up to you whether Texas Chainsaw or Friday the 13th or Halloween is the best original 70s slasher. It's certain Texas Chainsaw Massacre is certainly more intelligent than the original Nightmare on Elm Street, despite, my love of Freddy as a character. So, okay, let me see. Right, sequel. So, this is a sequel to the original, a pure sequel, ideally. I have to admit, I didn't see Chainsaw 2 and 3, so I don't actually know if it's as close a sequel as those two were. But, and you can tell me in the comments if you feel like commenting. Tell me if I'm wrong about this not being a reboot or this being the closest thing to a sequel. But I honestly just don't know. Which is why I wasn't going to review this, but it actually pissed me off enough that I had to review this, because you shouldn't go see this movie. Right. So, Start Tough is the pure sequel to the original. It's the baby from the original, survives a massacre of all the Sawyer family. The ones who were actually the villains in the original. Because I don't know if any of you know that. I don't know how many of you know this. Leatherface, while being the killer in the original, is not actually the villain. He's really just more of a patsy. He's a mentally challenged individual who this horrible, horrible family who eats people and, butchers complete strangers has just made into their killing tool because, he's the strongest of the family. It's a pretty good premise because, it actually goes a ways to making you feel sympathy for, the slasher because, it's really not his fault. You can't hold him accountable. He's just a guy who got born into really unfortunate circumstances and doesn't know better. He technically has the mind of a child. He can't be held accountable for his actions. So that was really good about the original. So yeah, I know it seems like I'm rambling there. That's actually relevant later, so I'll get to it. So after the survivor girl, whatever her name was, from the original, gets away and gets to the hospital, the sheriff of the town where the Sawyers are in, oh yeah, how the town seemed to support the whole cannibalism thing. Turns out they didn't. I'm pretty sure that's a retcon. I don't know. I didn't see too. Anyway, pretty sure that's a retcon. It turns out that the town didn't support the cannibalistic clan. They just turned a blind eye to them. So the sheriff only actually goes to, you know, arrest anybody once there's proof that they've been doing something wrong the whole town. Isn't that great? It's so nice to see the sheriff doing his job. If he had done his job, this whole movie would have been solved before it had started. Yeah. Again, that sounds like rambling. Actually, the whole point of why I'm angry at this. Yes, the sheriff. If the sheriff had done his job, this whole movie wouldn't have happened. But the movie did happen. So the sheriff goes to the Sawyer's house. He bargains with them. They agree to send Leatherface out to pay for all their crimes. Again, showing how, the clan was really the ones responsible for all the horrible death in the first one. You do good that I'm trying to convey this. The clan is evil. They are not redeemable. They aren't. Except for Leatherface, who, again, can't be held accountable for his actions. So the sheriff, who's doing a bang-up job, by the way, goes and... So, he agrees, they're going to get Leatherface, and then a lynch mob pulls up. And they effectively kill the whole clan. They kill the whole clan except for 2 members. Small baby, who... it's the small baby that the one chick had in the first one. And Leatherface, who, of course, escapes. Again, otherwise we wouldn't have this movie. So, the baby is found after the burning and shooting of the rest of the Sawyer family. And she's taken in by 2 parents who, can't have children. Okay, it's fine. I mean, that's actually fairly responsible of the lynch mob. I never thought I would say those words, but it's responsible of some of the lynch mob members that they take in the child, that they don't kill the child. It's good. So, the sheriff says to the lynch mob leader that this is all on you, and... Right. Fast forward, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so. Maybe it's more. Not entirely sure. Anyway, fast forward, the baby is now a, 20-something, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's not right according to how time should work, since the original Chainsaw Massacre was in the 70s. And they established that it was in the 70s, and this new one takes place in modern day. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, she should be like 40. So that's another thing that I didn't think of at the time. She is either amazingly healthy at 40 and, amazingly just out of college at 40, or time is warped and space is bendable. Right. So, then we get the rest of our supporting cast. First we meet her slutty friend, whose name I don't remember because she's really just the slutty friend. She's there to get killed, like most of a horror cast is. Mere boyfriend, who's the black guy. Now, horror fans just groan at that because usually the black guy dies first. This time he doesn't. It's really nice to that's actually a good change because it's kind of an old idea and it's good affirmative action. The black guy doesn't die first. Of course, we're still waiting for a black protagonist. I mean, just saying. Right, where was I? Okay. Black guy, and then we're introduced to the comedy relief for this movie, who is her boyfriend's friend, who he sets up with the slay chick. Not that matters. Right. Sorry, focus. Um, so then the girl finds out that her grandmother died, and it's not actually her adopted grandmother. It's her grandmother from her actual family, and she hadn't known she was adopted up to this point. Oh, and remember those two lynch mob members who took responsibility and everything? Yeah, they've turned into assholes in the intervening years. That happened. Uh, so they end up going to Texas because she has to sign a will and check out a house and yada yada yada. They pick up a hitchhiker on the way. So they meet her lawyer outside the house. Lawyer was a friend of her grandmother from the cannibal clan. And he gives her the keys to the house and a letter from her grandma, which would have actually explained a lot of the plot and avoid getting her friends killed, but she didn't bother to read it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Horror movie protagonists are dumb. All of them. So, let's see, they check out the house. The house is really nice. It is. It's like this plantation, and it's all nice and refurbished on the inside, and really beautiful house. Got silver in it and everything. They go and to get food so they can cook dinner because they decide to stay in the house overnight. Again, horror movie protagonist intelligence at its finest. They leave the hitchhiker there. Hitchhiker's a thief. He starts stealing the silver and he takes the keys because, apparently the grandma was really big on security, so she had like this whole ring of keys to the house, and like there's this big old iron. No, it wasn't iron. It was an old brass key on one end. It's just like I'm looking at that. I'm like, really? It's. I'm not joking. It's like. I'm trying to think of what. It's like. You ever seen those Lego keys where there are the big things that can fit inside the Lego figure's hands? That's what that key is like. And of course, that key's supposed to draw the eye because, it's the key to Leatherface's section of the house. Which, of course, our genius of a thief unlocks because he sees nothing odd about a door that's designed to look like the rest of the wall, which leads down to a reinforced door, which leads to a wine cellar with a metal door inside. Remember when thieves used to be the smart ones in the movies? Yeah, forget that. This one's an idiot. He lets Leatherface out, gets killed, first one to die. Okay, then they get back, they find, he stole all the stuff, and they think he left. Of course he didn't. Like I said, he died. A horrible death. So then the comic relief guy is cooking. Comic relief guy who I actually really like. He finds the same door, does the same routine. The door's all open. He finds nothing weird about it. He gets killed by Leatherface. Oh, this is something I should comment on too. The comic relief guy, he's skinny. He's short, skinny little guy. The guy that you kind of always outrun you at school if you weren't really skinny. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He gets killed by a 60-year-old man. I mean, don't get me wrong. Leatherface is still in pretty good shape, but his age does show. They actually make an effort to show that he is pretty old by this point. So he got ran down by a really old guy who's really strong, and muscles don't actually they aid in your running, but they also kind of slow you down if you're more heavily built. So apparently the laws of physics mean nothing in this film. At least in Nightmare on Elm Street, we expect the laws of physics to mean nothing. This is supposed to be in the real world. Just saying. Right. So, Comic Relief dies. There goes my character I actually really liked. Um, then the her the main girl's horse friend goes and seduces her boyfriend. I said he didn't die first, not that it was entirely positive. Um, so yeah, that happens, and she gets knocked out by Leatherface, taken down to the cellar. It's where we actually see the funny guy's death. He wasn't dead before, despite the fact that Leatherface had slammed a meat hook into his shoulder blades, but nothing, no major damage. Uh, right, so she gets chased by Leatherface. She hides in her grandmother's grave. Leatherface is about to kill her. Then her friends, who were, you know, having sex in the barn, come out and distract Leatherface. And, okay, Leatherface has a chainsaw, and, they close up these barn doors. And the lock on the barn doors is a single 2x4. Nothing else, just a 2x4 that, goes across the two doors. Something that if Leatherface cut through, he could open up the barn doors. And, they started to defend themselves. I mean, that's pretty good. A lot of horror movie characters wouldn't defend themselves, but they do. Of course, the slutty friend misses with a shotgun. I don't know how she misses. It looks to me like she shot right where his shoulder should have been, but I guess adrenaline, whatever. That's the other thing. The shotgun really shouldn't have worked after so many years in the barn. Humidity and all that. It messes up the metal, and it's a thing. So then, Leatherface has gone away from the door after the shotgun blast. They hear a chainsaw-like sound, and it turns out not to be Leatherface's chainsaw, but this old crappy VW van that they were riding earlier, which was a good trick. I mean, it was unexpected. Good on the director for that. Let's see. Okay, so then, right. They go through this whole chase scene where Leatherface chases down the van because they slam into the gates instead of waiting for them to open, despite the fact that they had already outpaced Leatherface. And the car is, starting and not starting again because, again, it's old and in terrible shape. At that point, Leatherface almost catches up to them. No, he does catch up to them, and he cuts out their wheels with his chainsaw. And it totally messes up their wheels, and it makes them crash. And Leatherface's chainsaw is pulled out of his hand. And nothing else is not damaged at all. No, the chain is not blunted. The blade is not wrecked. Nothing. I mean, what? Did they make it out of adamantium? That's not how it works. Right, so anyway, they crash. Her boyfriend dies off screen. Yeah, no, we don't even get to see his death. He doesn't even get killed by Leatherface. He just gets a shard of glass from the crash. Shard of glass from the crash embedded in his throat. So then, Leatherface is scaring them. He's shoving the chainsaw through various windows, trying to get to them. And, let's see. He rolls the car over on his side. This is another thing I have a problem with. Earlier it showed, right, because remember how I said you actually get to see him kill the funny guy? Well, he actually hangs him up on a meat hook and then cuts him in half. You could, there were sounds, and you could see that Leatherface was supposed to be having a hard time lifting the one guy up on the meat hook. And this guy is not big. He's skinny and short. But, he apparently has no trouble rolling over a van. Sure. So he's got the two who are left, the slutty girl and the main girl, trapped. And, he's about to get them. The main girl actually distracts him from her friend. That's pretty good. It's realistic. I mean, Sure, no one wants a chainsaw wielding maniac running after them, but do you really want to just sit by and watch your friend die? I applaud it. Or I would have applauded if it didn't all go to hell later. Um, so main girl leads him on chase through the forest. Her ankles hurt, so it actually makes sense that he can keep up with her. And then she leads him to the town's Halloween festival. And until she actually climbs over the fence, and then Leatherface cuts through the fence to get to her, no one looks. Until the two of them are having their chase through the festival, no one looks. I don't even need to insult that. It does it itself. And, let's see. So she runs and she runs and she runs until, a deputy who we saw earlier and who it was kind of implied, would end up being the love interest, shows up and, he tells Leatherface, he points a gun at Leatherface, tells him to put down the chainsaw. Leatherface throws his chainsaw. Chainsaws don't work like that. That's all I have to say. You can't throw one. It doesn't work. You would just end up... No. Not even how he threw it. He threw it to the side. And it actually makes less sense than throwing it vertically. You can't do it. Just take my word on it. Right, so... They take her in for questioning. They find out she's a Sawyer, and, the town mayor, who is the leader of the lynch mob from back when they killed off the whole Sawyer family, comes by, and, the sheriff is one of his deputies out looking at the car wreck, and, the deputy decides to follow the blood trail into the house. And, look, this is kind of, look, now, obviously, the one girl was still alive, so there were lives in danger, but the guy goes into the house alone. I don't want to say he shouldn't have done that, because there was a life in danger, but, that's really... I mean, yeah. Okay, look. A life was in danger. I can understand why he went in. It probably wasn't going to end well, even if this wasn't operating off horror movie logic, because, honestly, when you're in an enclosed space, a blade is going... Right, because he's hunting Leatherface through short hallways that all, kind of intersect. So that means that Leatherface actually has the advantage in weapons, because, he can just reach out and, hit him with any melee weapon at any time. And, WD goes investigating. He pulls out his iPhone and sends a live call to the mayor, so the mayor can see what's going on in the house. And it's stupid. I mean, it's stupid. What do you want? He's using his iPhone so people can see what's going on. It's product placement, and it's blatant. So then he finds his way into Leatherface's chop shop. Or maybe I should not call it that. That makes it sound way too flippant, but that's basically what it is. It's where he uses to cut up the meat. They do that. If you've ever seen the original and you've seen the freezer scene, they copy that. And for those of you who don't know, they have the freezer shake in the original, and then Leatherface comes in, kills the guy. It's a good distraction tactic. It was really well done. And this was actually, it's a stupid way to kill off one of the people, but it was, in spite of that, a pretty good scare. The deputy opens up the freezer and the slutty friend pops out. He shoots her in the head. So, yeah. And then The deputy goes out. He goes back up to the reinforced door, at which point Leatherface pops out and kills him. And then later we see a Leatherface, removing the deputy's face. What else? And the mayor decides he's going to kill the main girl. Because, despite only having found out she was related to these people in the last 2 days, and only having gotten there that night, decides that she is just as murderous as the rest of them. I would be more annoyed by that, but it turns out he's kind of right. Yeah. I'll get to it more later. I'll just try to sum up the movie really quickly. So, I don't know if I can do this quickly. Well, yes, I can. Her lawyer comes and gives her an exposition dump. He gets knocked out. She gets into the back of the car with the deputy, who was said to be the love interest. Turns out to be the mayor's son, which was obvious to me, but apparently was supposed to be a twist. It didn't really work. So let me see. Then they go to the slaughterhouse where the whole family used to work, because apparently slaughterhouse workers equals cannibalism. That's one of those weird things about the original movie, too. It doesn't really make sense, but... So they go there, and that's when Leatherface finds out that she's a member of his family, and, it turns out that Leatherface protects the has been trained to protect the family. Which, again, should highlight how evil the family is, that they trained Leatherface to do all this crap. So, let's see. She kills one of the mayor's cronies, and the mayor is about to have a chain pull Leatherface into a grinder. She gives Leatherface back his chainsaw, and he kills the mayor. Although he might not have killed the mayor, because the sheriff who did not stop the lynch mob the last time was there, and the mayor was asking him to shoot Leatherface and save him, and it's like... And apparently the sheriff decides that, yes, the serial killer is in the right here, despite not... Again, Leatherface cannot be held account to his actions, but the serial killer is totally in the right here, and it's like, well, yeah, I guess. It's like, I can kind of see that. Yes, technically the mayor is the villain, but I'm getting more to the... I'll get to you, final girl. Just you wait. So, then... Yeah, that's basically it. She decides to live there, and she gives Leatherface his, little maze in the bottom. Well, listen, it's a couple of hallways. It's a couple of hallways in the bottom of the house, and, At no point, by the way, does she remove her friend's mangled corpses from Leatherface's meat shop. No, she leaves them in there. There's nothing to imply she takes them out. Absolutely nothing. So yeah, and it ends on a happy note where she's just living in her house peacefully with her cannibalistic serial killer cousin in the bottom. Locked up. Like, a felon who you release just to kill people. I need to take out my glasses for this one. What the fuck? I mean... Okay, so... Occasionally, horror directors will do this where they try to make the serial killers sympathetic. This worked for Leatherface in the original, because, again, I've said this I don't know how many times so far, he cannot be held accountable. However, this director also attempts to make the rest of the murderous family who was abusing Leatherface and using him as their fall guy sympathetic. No. 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 You can't do that. They're not sympathetic. They were the villains of the original. They were the villains of the original movie. You missed the point of the original. I mean, what else do I have to say? He missed the entire point. Point is that Leatherface isn't the villain. The family is. And this director missed the point. I don't know who this director is. I don't care who he is. It's just... Oh, and the final girl. Right, I was going to talk about her. Her motivations are so screwed up. You know, she starts off as a completely normal person. Big goth looking, sure, but completely normal. Then, after her friends are killed, she finds out that her family was massacred by the lynch mob. Her family, who she read all of the information on their crimes. All of it. The cannibalism, the killings, the massacre. All of it. And she decides, oh, the lynch mob was... She decides that the lynch mob were the ones in the wrong. And... arguably, yes, you could make an argument that vigilantism is wrong and the justice system and all that, but really, we're supposed to sympathize with the villains of the original film. It's not happening. At least it's not happening for me. I don't know about the rest of you. I hope the rest of you aren't, because they were the villains of the original film. Why are we supposed to sympathize with them? And why are we supposed to sympathize with her? She decided that this mass-murdering, cannibalistic family were victims. Leatherface was the only victim in that family. And she... Remember how I said, you know, she drew her Leatherface away from her friend, and, you know, that's pretty good, because that's what a normal person would do. So then, remember how I also said, she doesn't take her friend's corpses out of Leatherface's meat shop. She is going to let Leatherface eat her friend's dead corpses. What? And I mean, the lynch mob leader, yes, he's an asshole, and yes, in a by horror movie terms, of course he was going to die. But, you know, he's not as reprehensible as... He's actually not as reprehensible as the sheriff, who we're supposed to, you know... We're supposed to view him refusing to shoot Leatherface as, you know, his heroic redemption that he didn't do the first time, except, you know... No. The sheriff is arguably... Yeah, I'm actually going to make that argument. The sheriff is the villain of this piece, really. He's not a villain because he does stuff. He's a villain because he didn't do stuff. He is a villain of omission. Why is that? Because he wasn't doing his job. They make it abundantly clear that the whole town knew what was going on there. So the sheriff has been turning a blind eye to this serial murdering clan that's been in their town for however long. So let's think about this. If the sheriff had done his job, not only would all of this movie never have happened, all of the original would not have happened. The sheriff is not a good guy. He is the biggest villain in this because, you know, he's fine. Instead of, you know, arresting the whole clan and, you know, calling the FBI and taking Leatherface to a mental institution, you know, where he can be properly cared for, he just lets the murder slide until there's actually a witness who can testify to the murders. Then he takes action. Only then. And why didn't he take action before that? He knew what was going on. I wish I had the Crazy Pills line from Zoolander. You know, Will Ferrell says, "Am I the only one who sees this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I feel the same way." They tried to make They try to make the sheriff a positive character, and if you actually stop and think about it, they fail so hard. So, I mean, don't see this movie. Don't. You'll be doing yourself a favor if you actually just watch the original. And I've heard that 2 is pretty good. Anything after those 2, you should probably skip, is the impression I get. And definitely skip on this movie, because honestly, it's horribly done once you stop and think about people's motivations in it. Just by the end, the only sympathetic character is Leatherface, and that's not because of how they did in the original, where it was shown that it was his family manipulating them. It's Leatherface in this one because everyone else is so unlikable that you have to pick somebody, and the only somebody left is Leatherface. It's like, I did the same thing with Alien. I mean, Alien's not as bad. Alien, she goes back for the cat. I mean, at that point, sure, I start rooting for the alien. I mean, it's not hateful. It's kind of, it's kind of just as a joke, Alien played its seriousness very well throughout the whole movie, and then the directors decided, we'll have this character go back for the cat, and, at that point, you jokingly start rooting for the alien. In this, you're just rooting for Leatherface to kill them all and just go back to living life in the basement. And then, I feel bad about saying that, because, no, actually, I didn't. I wanted Leatherface to be found by the reasonable authorities and taken to a mental institution, and to have everyone else in the piece arrested. All of them. It's just... And it was fine. It was supposed to be back to basic kind of thing. You can see, because it's kind of similar to the original. And they were doing that fine up until Act 3, where everyone's motivations got all shot to hell. This could have been a good horror movie. Maybe not as good as the original, maybe not as good as any of the 70s original slasher films, but it could have been a lot better than the horror we're generally getting. And it didn't, because the motivations are all... These people are stupid. Whoever... I don't know if it's the director's fault or the writers, but whoever was responsible for these motivations, they should not be allowed to be involved with movies. They shouldn't. I mean, no. Just, look. I haven't seen it, but I hear Django Unchained is really good. Go see that instead. Or, hell, I heard Les Mis. Les Mis wasn't horrible. Go see that instead. Go see anything else instead of this. Don't see this. There's nothing else I can say. I appreciate if you, sat here and listened to me rant for over half an hour. Good night, people. I have to go.